My birthday fell on a Tuesday that year. I remember because I had back-to-back calls until 4 in the afternoon, and I kept thinking, okay, after this one, someone will text. After this one, maybe my mom will call. She didn't. Not a text, not a voicemail, nothing. My brother got a cake last March. I saw the photos on her Facebook. 3-layered chocolate, candles, the whole family around the kitchen table in matching smiles. She drove 40 minutes to his apartment to drop it off. He didn't even ask her to. She just showed up because that's what she does for him. For me, she sent a card 2 days late the year before. A generic one from the drugstore, the kind with a watercolor balloon on the front and a pre-printed message inside. She didn't even write anything, just signed her name. My stepdad's name was there too, in her handwriting, because apparently he couldn't bother to hold the pen himself. I told myself it didn't sting anymore. I'd been telling myself that for years. I grew up understanding, in the way that kids understand things, they're never explicitly told, that my brother was the one who needed more. He was younger, yes, but that wasn't really it. He was the one who cried louder, who struggled more visibly, who my mom called sensitive, in that soft voice she reserved only for him. I was fine. I was always fine. I got good grades without being asked, made my own lunch by the time I was 9, figured things out. Fine was both a compliment and a dismissal, and it took me until my late 20s to understand that. I moved out at 22 with 2 suitcases and a laptop and an entry-level remote job that paid $52,000 a year. Not impressive by any measure, but I was careful with it in a way I hadn't learned from anyone in my family. I cooked at home. I didn't have cable. I opened a Roth IRA because I'd read 3 personal finance books in one summer and decided that if nobody was going to hand me anything, I was going to build it myself, brick by brick, even if the bricks were small. My brother, around the same time, was figuring himself out. That's the phrase my mom used whenever I asked. Figuring himself out meant living at home until 26, cycling through ideas, music production, drop shipping, a podcast that lasted 4 episodes while my parents covered his phone bill, his car insurance, and whatever else quietly needed covering. I didn't ask for the details. It wasn't my business. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't find out until much later, was that it was actually very much my business. I changed jobs twice in 3 years. Each time I negotiated, small jumps at first, then a bigger one when I moved into a senior role at a tech startup that was growing fast enough to feel electric. I got equity. I didn't fully understand what that meant at the time. I just knew to say yes. My manager, who had become something of a mentor, told me to hold on to it, to not get impatient. So I didn't. I kept my expenses flat even as my income grew. Same apartment, same grocery habits, same secondhand furniture I'd had since my first place. I maxed out my 401k. I kept a separate account I didn't touch, just watched it accumulate the way you watch grass grow. Slowly enough that you doubt it's happening, and then one day you look down and it's unmistakably there. My personal life during those years was quieter than I would have liked. I dated someone for 2 years who turned out to want something I couldn't give him, a different version of me, one who wanted to move back to the town we both grew up in and settle down near family. I thought about it. I actually thought about it seriously for a few months. Imagined the version of that life. Tried it on like a coat that didn't quite fit. We ended things in the fall. Carefully. Without much drama. I was sad for longer than I admitted to anyone, my closest friend. I'll call her my work wife because that's what she was. Noticed before I did that I was burning low. She took me to a farmer's market one Saturday and made me eat a breakfast burrito in the sun and just talk about nothing for 2 hours. And something about that morning reset something in me. I went home and signed up for a ceramics class I'd been putting off for 18 months. I tell you all of this because I want you to understand who I was before the thing happened that changed everything. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't building toward some grand moment of vindication. I was just a woman in her late 20s, living carefully, quietly accumulating something, still flinching a little every birthday. The startup got acquired. I won't tell you the number because it's not the point, but I will tell you that the morning I saw the wire hit my account, I sat on my kitchen floor in my pajamas and just breathed for a long time. It wasn't a lottery ticket moment, it was more like, oh, so this is what it feels like when the thing you were patient about actually happens. I didn't tell my family, not immediately, not because I was hiding it, more because there wasn't a natural moment. My mom and I talked maybe once a month, conversations that lasted 12 minutes and covered logistics. My brother and I texted occasionally, mostly memes, rarely anything real. My stepdad and I had a cordial relationship built entirely on surface politeness and mutual avoidance of depth. A few months after the acquisition, I bought a car. A Porsche Cayenne, pre-owned but in near-perfect condition, in a shade of gray that looked almost silver in afternoon light. I'd researched it for 6 months. It cost $88,000, and I paid cash because I could and because I wanted, just once, to do something that felt like proof of what I'd built without asking anyone's permission or opinion. I posted one photo on Instagram. Just the car in the parking garage, taken from the back, the light catching the edge of the bumper. No caption. Not even a location tag. My mom texted me within 4 hours. Not happy belated anything. Not how are you? Just, is that your car? I replied. Yep. She said, we need to talk. Your father wants to have a family dinner. This weekend. I want to be precise about something, she said, your father. My parents divorced when I was 11. The man she was referring to was my stepdad, who had never once asked me to call him dad and whom I had always referred to in my own head, simply as her husband. The fact that she called him your father in that moment told me everything I needed to know about the tone of what was coming. I almost didn't go. I want to be honest about that. I sat with the text for 2 days. I drafted and deleted 4 different responses. I called my ceramics teacher, who is 71 years old and has no filter, and she said, go. You'll regret it more if you don't, but go with your eyes open. That's the advice that landed. I drove to my mom's house on a Saturday afternoon. An hour and 15 minutes, all highway. I had a podcast on, but I wasn't listening to it. The table was set formally, which was unusual. My brother was already there, sitting in the chair he'd always claimed as his, picking at bread. My mom was in the kitchen. Her husband was standing near the window with the particular posture of a man who has decided in advance that he is the reasonable one in the room. Nobody hugged me when I came in. My mom said you made it like I'd navigated something impressive. My brother looked at my car through the window and then looked at the table. We ate for 20 minutes in the way that families eat when they're waiting to say the real thing. Then her husband set down his fork. We wanted to sit down together, he said, because we think there are some things we should all be aware of. I said, okay, it seems like you've come into some money recently. I said, I've worked hard for several years. Yes, we're not questioning that. He paused in the way people pause when they absolutely are questioning that. But family is family. And there are some situations we're navigating right now that we think you should know about. My brother didn't look up from his plate. My mom said, we just think as a family it's good to be transparent, to share. We've always shared. I thought about the birthday I'd just had. The Tuesday. The silence. What situations? I asked. Her husband cleared his throat. My brother had a podcast, apparently, that was gaining traction. This was the phrase used, and needed real investment to go to the next level. Equipment. Marketing. A professional editor. The number they mentioned was $30,000. He presented this the way you might present a business proposition, with confidence, as though the framing were self-evidently reasonable. I sat with it for a moment. I'm not going to do that, I said. My mom's face shifted. We're not asking you to just give it. I think you are. It would be a loan. Your brother would pay it back. I looked at my brother then. He was still looking at his plate. He had still not said a single word. He wasn't even making the ask himself. They were making it for him, and he just sat there and let them. And something about that told me more about him than any conversation we'd had in years. "I need to ask you something," I said, and I was surprised by how steady my voice was. When I was in college, my first year, I had a fund. From Grandma and Grandpa. For school. My mom set it up when I was in high school. Silence. "I looked into it a few years ago," I said. "I pulled the records. It was $22,000. And when I was 19, it was transferred out. Fully, and I never saw any of it. My mom's face was doing something complicated. That was," she started. "Where did it go?" her husband said. "There were circumstances at the time." "I'm asking my mom." She looked at the table. "Your brother was struggling. We needed to. You used my college fund for him." "It wasn't. It was a difficult time. We always intended." "I worked 2 jobs my entire sophomore year," I said. I was not raising my voice. I was very deliberately not raising my voice. "I took out loans I've been paying back for 7 years. I thought the fund had been mismanaged. I thought maybe there was a fee, or I didn't know you had taken it." My brother finally looked up. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me, and I couldn't read his face. "I'm not going to give you $30,000, I said. "I'm not going to give him anything. What I am going to do is talk to someone about what happened with that account, because what you did was not legal, and I think you know that." Her husband started talking about family and intentions and difficult times, and I stopped hearing him somewhere around the word love. I stood up. I picked up my bag. I told my mom I loved her, because I did, even then, even sitting in the wreckage of what she'd just told me without meaning to. She didn't say anything back. I drove home with the podcast still going. I didn't change it. I let it run. I cried somewhere around the 40-minute mark, not dramatically. Just the kind of crying that happens when something you suspected for a long time gets confirmed and your body needs somewhere to put it. That was 8 months ago. I did talk to a lawyer. I won't go into everything we discussed, but I'll say that what my parents did with that account was, as I suspected, not above board, and there were options available to me. I made choices about which of those options to pursue based on what I could actually carry emotionally, because pursuing all of them would have consumed years of my life, and I've already given this family more of my life than it ever gave me back. I got a partial resolution. It's not everything. It's something. My brother sent me a voice memo 2 months ago. It was 4 minutes long, and he cried for most of it. He said he hadn't known about the college fund until recently, that our mom had told him it was an inheritance I'd received and didn't need. He said he didn't know what to do with that information, and neither did I, honestly. I haven't responded yet. I've listened to the memo 7 times. I keep thinking I'll know what to say, and I keep not knowing. My mom calls occasionally. I pick up sometimes. We talk for 12 minutes about logistics. Nothing has been resolved between us, and I'm not sure it will be. I bought a house in March. Not a starter house. Our real house in a neighborhood I love, with a backyard and a kitchen with southern light and a room I've turned into a studio for the ceramics I'm still doing on Saturdays. I paid a significant down payment and got a mortgage I can afford without thinking too hard about it. I did not post it on Instagram. I don't know who I would have become if my family had shown up for me the way they showed up for my brother. Maybe more trusting, maybe less careful. Maybe I'd have taken more risks earlier, or maybe I'd have taken fewer and gotten here later, or maybe I'd never have gotten here at all. I don't know. That's not the life I got. What I got is this one. The ceramics on Saturday mornings. The house with the southern light. The savings account I built myself, brick by brick, starting with the bricks that were small. My birthday is in 6 weeks. I already have plans. I'm taking myself to dinner at the kind of place I used to walk past and tell myself someday. My work wife is coming. We're going to order the expensive wine and sit by the window and talk about everything and nothing for 2 hours, and it is going to feel like enough, because it will be. because I've learned. Slowly, the hard way, the only way I seem to learn anything, that enough doesn't come from the people who were supposed to give it to you. It comes from showing up for yourself so consistently, for so long, that one day you look down and it's unmistakably there. And you never needed their permission, you never needed their meeting, you never needed the cake. I've thought a lot about why it took me so long to see it clearly. Not the college fund, that was hidden from me, and I can't blame myself for not knowing what I was never told. I mean the bigger thing. The pattern. The way I kept showing up, year after year, to a table that never quite set a place for me, and telling myself that was fine. That I was fine, because being fine was the only identity they'd ever given me room to have. There's something that happens when you're the self-sufficient one in a family. People stop checking on you, and after a while they stop seeing you. Not out of cruelty necessarily, though sometimes it is cruelty, dressed up as practicality, but out of habit. You trained them without meaning to by never asking for anything. And they trained you, without meaning to believe that needing something was a weakness you couldn't afford. I think about the version of me at 19, working double shifts, assuming the empty college fund was just bad luck, just life being imperfect the way life is. She didn't know to be angry, she didn't have enough information, so she just worked harder, which is what she always did. Which is what I always did, and the people who had taken something from her never had to answer for it because she never knew to ask. That's the part that sits with me the most. Not the money, though $22,000 at 19 would have changed the trajectory of my early 20s in ways I can only partially imagine. It's the not knowing. The way the truth was managed around me so carefully that I couldn't even feel the shape of what was missing. I walked around for years with a wound I couldn't locate, and I called it other things: ambition, independence, resilience, because those were words that sounded like strength, and strength was the thing I had decided to be. What I understand now, on the other side of that dinner table and that drive home and those 7 listens to my brother's voice memo, is that resilience is real, but it isn't the same as being okay. I built something genuinely good with the years I had. The house, the savings, the career, those are mine, and I earned them, and I'm proud of them in a way that has nothing to do with proving anything to anyone. But I didn't build them because I was strong. I built them because I had no other option, and there's a difference between those two things that took me a long time to name. My brother, sitting at that table, not saying a word while our parents made an ask on his behalf, I don't think he's a bad person. I think he was handed a different set of defaults. He was taught that struggle was something that happened to you, and that family was supposed to absorb it. I was taught that struggle was something you handled quietly and alone. Neither of us chose our curriculum. What we do with it from here, that part is on us. I'm not carrying this as a wound anymore. I'm carrying it as information. About what I need, about what I won't accept, about the kind of table I actually want to sit at for the rest of my life. And I'm building that table myself, in a house with southern light, on a Saturday morning with clay on my hands and somewhere to be. That's enough. It really is.